journalist based in Egypt and the UK. Also joining us are Ida Moluner, who's best known for Addis Photo Fest, as well as Sara Susanni Maino, who is from Vogue Italia. I'd like to hand over to Giordano. Giordano, if you can say a few words about the Temangi Foundation.
Okay, thank you, Kona. First of all, I would like to stress a bit the meaning and the aim of Daniele Tamagni grant, because I think it is useful to understand the kind of approach we have through these initiatives to keep the legacy of my son Daniele still alive. The grant is not simply financing a scholarship. It is what I believe an investment in education, which is based on 4 pillars. The first is this positive long-term partnership with Market Photo Workshop, with whom we share on values and objectives, and which has been quite positive, very positive collaboration in the first edition. The second pillar is, of course, the legacy of my son Daniele with the African people and African culture. I have a nephew who is also African from Congo. My son had a partnership with a lady in Brazzaville, and now we have linked also by blood relationship with Africa. The third pillar of the grant is that we keep a constant relationship with a recipient who is staying in Johannesburg. So we don't live there and we forget him. We just pay some money to help him to survive in Johannesburg and to pay the fee. It's something that we try to keep this relation alive in order to face, if we can contribute from my side to solve problems together with Market Photo Workshop. And the fourth pillar, which I believe is linked to my philosophy of life, is that I believe that as individuals, we can really contribute to improve the life of people as individuals. We can do something, maybe not so much, but something. And so, despite life is tough and hard for everybody, I think that if everybody do something to improve life also of ours, is positive. And so, in this framework, the grant was designed. The other consideration I'd like to make in the introduction is, of course, to talk just 1 minute about Fatma, because Fatma, the recipient, did something that was an exceptional. She faced an exceptional challenge to stay 9,000 kilometers from home during most of the time in lockdown situation. And she resisted in Joburg. She resisted to the wish, maybe to the pressure of the family to come back to Cairo, with a resilience, a courage, and keeping focus on learning, which really must be recognized together of everything else she did from a photographic or learning point of view. So in this situation, I would like really to underline this great courage of Fatma in keeping the track. On the other side, I would like to present the other panelists, which the introduction has been made by Kona, because we have panelists who, of course, have a common denominator, a common point with the grant. All of them are investing in their activities in education on different sides. AIDA, through the foundation of Addis Photo Festival, a lot of activities of the festival relates to education and development of young talents. The same she's doing with her firm, Desta, who is doing a lot of mentoring activities. Laura also is making a lot of mentoring activities, not only as a photographic professional, and she's pursuing this aim for many years. In the same time, also Sarah, who is not directly in the world of photography, but of course in the world of fashion photography is a key lever. She, through his Vogue Talents program, this program is based a lot on initiatives related to education for young designers to grow, to develop, and to keep open some values which I believe are common to everybody now participate to the panel. The values on which Daniele followed his way to in the photographic environment, in the photographic world, which is based on the respect of people, on the identity of people, and also on the dignity of people. So I think that these values are common values of everybody now in the panel. Of course, Kona is itself a key player in this project because she is following, is responsible of this grant from a point of view of market photo workshop. Okay, so I just stop my first part of presentation, and I would like that Kona gives to, I believe now, to Laura the presentation, and Fatma the presentation of Fatma's work and of her experience in Johannesburg.
Sure, I'm happy to take over. Kona, do you want to say anything before we begin?
I'd like to, please. Having the being approached by the Daniele Tamangi Foundation was an absolute surprise to us as the Market Photo Workshop, and a very welcome one at that. I think I was speaking to Giordano just a little bit earlier, and when he spoke about what it is that attracted him to the Market Photo Workshop in particular, I think it felt really good to know that our workshopping methodology touches people across from where we are at the moment. Just to speak briefly about the program that Fatma was involved in, which is the documentary photography program. This the photojournalism and documentary photography program. This program takes place over a year. And for Fatma, it was 2020, which was in some ways difficult, but she managed to pull through, as Daniela said. As Giordano said. What has been very successful with how the program has worked is that everything is practical, but I'm sure Fatma is going to speak more to that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Hona, and thank you so much, Giordano. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of sort of a family that I feel you've created, Giordano. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm particularly happy to be here to talk to Fatma, to be talking about another fellow Egyptian's work, somebody that I'm very proud of, that's building the visual language around photography in Egypt by telling stories and exploring sort of the social and environmental issues that are really relevant to us today in Egypt, but also in the continent with the work she's done through the grant. So the goal, like Fatma and I haven't really rehearsed what we're going to talk about today. We've had a small chat a few weeks ago, but really the goal for today is, I think, to introduce people who don't know Fatma's work to her journey with photography, because I know she's had a particular journey at arriving with, choosing to explore the world with her camera, and how she applied for the grant, the work that she produced and won the grant for, and also her time in South Africa, which was very unique given that she was there with the pandemic. I'm really interested to know how this impacted the work that she's done, the themes that she took on in her work, and all of that. It's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm not going to be able to keep tabs on time, so if you guys want us to stop at any point, let us know. For people who are attending, please post your questions in the chat room. We will be looking at them and we'll be answering your questions at the end. So first of all, Fatma, hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to invite me and give me time to present my work here. Yeah, with this big photography. Thanks Guardiano and Market Photo Workshop to support me all of the time of COVID, especially Guardiano. Start when I start from I leave my home until I arrive South Africa. He support me a lot to I complete my study, and I keep going to make a project. It's not easy in this time for the COVID, because I get this my dream, and after that the COVID, I stay a lot of time at home, and this is like a difficult time for me, but I'm proud for what I have now, and I get a lot of experience, not in the school, about the connection there, and the connection for the people we calling me every time in the COVID time to say hi, how are you, like, are you fine? Thank you for everything, really.
So great. So Fatma, I thought there's no better place to start than with a memory, particularly a good memory. So just sharing my screen here when we actually first met. So this was a few years ago. I think it must be like 3 years ago now, when I first met you in Cairo. And this is when I was giving a workshop here in Egypt, and it was a really good way to meet so many people who are telling stories in Egypt. So I thought this was a really good time, really personally, to actually begin the conversation today. But what I'd really like to talk about actually is if you can tell us a little bit about your journey with photography, because you're not the first time that you were kind of studying photography, but how did you arrive at photography?
Okay.
You're an engineer by practice.
Yeah, I will tell you slightly about me. My name is Fatma Fahmy, born 1991 in Saudi Arabia. And after that, I came Egypt to study chemical engineer. After I graduated, I need like to bring my camera. This is the camera my family will give me like a gift, and I started to take a picture for the street in Egypt, because I feeling I'm not from here. Like, I need to explore Egypt and take a picture for the people and to be a connection. after like 5 years, since last 2 years, I enjoy to be a documentary photography. But this first time I meet you in your workshop, I need to take a chance to make a project and how to make that. I know it's very difficult after workshop with you, and I thinking to join any like a scholarship or something here in Egypt, but I didn't find anything to help me. After that, I get when I make my project about one there was the tram in Alexandria. I get lucky to I can apply for any grant. This when I see Danielle grant and market food workshop. This is the big place, and a lot of people graduated from this school. I get interesting to study in this school, and I prepare myself for 2 months before to write a proposal and motivation letter to I can get accepted for this school. When I get the short listed from the grant, I'm very happy because this is the is one of my dream. And after that, I get
very quickly, Fatma. Sorry.
I didn't hear you, Laura. Laura?
Just very quickly, I'm actually talking. So,
this is the
I'm showing your pictures of the tram right now. Can you hear me?
I hearing you. This is the series for one there other tram. I made it in Alexandria for 2 weeks, and this is like a nostalgic of the tramway in all the tramway in Egypt. And I get very interesting for this place, and I ride every day this tramway to take a picture for those people, and I feeling what happened the inner inside this tram. It is like what happened outside for this tramway because it's very very old, and I feeling I'm bored from this tram.
I think Lara is having connection problems, probably.
Yeah.
Giordano, maybe do you want to ask some questions while Lara is reconnecting? Or a microphone, Giordano, microfono.
Oh, Fatma, when you... Okay.
Laura back.
Is back, eh?
Okay.
Laura is back, eh?
Sorry about that. I have
No.
3 different internet connections, and yet I still have issues. So I'm back. Fatma, we were talking about your Tram series.
Yeah.
And you were, so I would really like you to talk us a little bit about the Tram series and how you arrived at it. And obviously your selection of images to apply for the grant.
Okay, this is like I told you when this is the old tramway in Alexandria. The story about this tram, when I see that old tramway, I feeling nostalgic about this place because I told you before I didn't born here, and I explore Egypt. I made a research about the tramway in Alexandria and how many years this is tram is in this place. I ride every day the tramway to explore what happened and the people. I need to make I need in this time I captured the moment for the people to be apart. I feeling I need to take an emotion for these people and how you feeling, because I feeling everything in the face for those people. It is like what happened this inner for the tramway. It is like outside the tramway how be old and how these people is fighting for the life, and after you finish the day we ride and one person sleeping, and everyone we have a story. I feel I am apart from this, also from this tramway. This is journey, because these people we have journey for this tram, and I feel in this time I have the same feeling also.
I certainly feel when I look at the series that I identify with a lot of the emotions that I'm seeing in the pictures, you know, a lot of these moments of stillness, moments of solitude, people looking emotionally, but also physically exhausted. For me, the series, when I first came across it, I felt like I was looking at a microcosm of Egypt. Like, and I feel this is exactly what you've accomplished with this series. And for me, it's a very sort of simple in terms of the idea, but that's why it makes it a very powerful series. So in doing that, what I'd really love to hear from you, kind of backtrack a very small bit about arriving at photography. I have sort of an idea that I feel like photography picked up in Egypt a lot with the Arab revolutions movement. A lot of people picked up cameras, especially young people, you know, your generation. And they felt like this is our moment to tell our own story. Is this something that you feel you took up photography during this moment and you felt like, now I want to start to tell my own stories?
No, I already when happened the revolution in Egypt, I was in the university, but I saw everything, but not this is I need to be a photographer. I have a voice, because I told you, when I have like a chemical engineer, I feeling I need to give the voice for the environment issue. What, because I have a lot of research doing in the environment issue of how to impact for these people. And sometimes I need to explore Egypt and the nostalgia for this place, because I feeling I didn't attend for all of this time. I feel I need to be a part for everything, because everything in the future will be changed. I need to capture the moment, and we have like, when I have my children or so, I will tell him this is Egypt, and what happened for Egypt after like 10 years or something. But I took I when I need to be a photographer, because like I interesting for the environment issue. This is because the environment issue is when you make I started like I need to make a master in the environment issue, but the problem, the scientific research, it is very difficult to anyone. You can read it, or you can you must have a knowledge about that. But I try to. I need to take a picture to. I told the people this is what happened. What you make in the land. To can anyone to can know what this is the meaning for the pollution or something. This is I need for my job, to I barred to my study about that and environment.
Yeah, and I think this definitely relates to the series that you did in South Africa with the Tamanye grant, which we're going to get into. So obviously, so you have an interest in engineering, but by virtue of what you practice, you have an interest in environmental issues. So let me bring up the work that you've done in South Africa and talk about arriving there during a pandemic, what it was first like for you arriving there. I think from what I understood from you, you literally arrived in South Africa and then suddenly everything shut down.
Yeah, after 1 month lockdown, I didn't make anything. And after I started this project in June or May, after the lockdown is open, and I get issue because I didn't know any place in South Africa just 1 month, and I get in lockdown, and this is get me for problem, because I didn't moving around a lot all of the time. In this time when I be at home, I make a research about the topic, and I speak with the company for environment, and I speak with some researcher in this area, so I know a lot of information because I need to make a project in about the water issue in this time in South Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's dissect it a little bit. So you arrived in South Africa, obviously excited about this grant, excited about the year ahead, all the things you're going to learn, all the experiences, the people you're going to meet. And 1 month later, everything shuts down. And I remember at the time we spoke a little bit because you were part of the Canon portfolio reviews for Visa pour l'Image. And you were usually in the same room every single time. There was a red curtain. I remember it very well, always in the background. And it didn't change. So I felt like the whole time you were stuck in this room. And obviously you ended up going outside and creating this series. So tell me a little bit about the thinking. How did you research the topic? How did you find it? And how did you go about going out to take the pictures?
Okay, the first time before I arrived to South Africa, already I know about the issue for the water, and because the water had long been scarce in South Africa, and this is a big problem there. Just I didn't know anything. Just I told when I arrive, I will like meet people or searching. First time I meet one photojournalism in environment. She working in environment issue also. I speak with her and I tell her what I need exactly to do. Because when I read about some of scientific research, the water in South Africa all we taken from underground and all of the river, and the problem for the gold mine for this area, all of the gold extraction is laced by toxics and radioactivity chemical. And I investigate I check where is this is area in the map, and I speak I get number for one company I see a lot of like article. I send the email to her. I am Fatma Fahmy, right? I study in market and I need like la. She tell me okay, but now is lockdown. I cannot meet you because it's not official to I go outside. I told her okay, can you send me a lot of research for this area? She sent me a lot of like scientific research, and I study. I print all of the paper, and I make a research, and I take because I must to make sure this water is we have an issue or we have a chemical. I take the analysis for all of the water in South Africa, and I read it, and because I have a background in chemical engineer, if I need anything, I ask my friend or I searching for this is we make an issue or not. And after that, I prepared to go outside one time with this woman. She worked in environment company. She get permission for me to I go with her. I take like a explorer for the area, and after I back, I make a research again what I need exactly to everything like. And after that she told me about this place. This Soweto is the snake bark. This is area we have. If you find the first picture in this presentation, you see the tailing dam. This tailing dam is coming from the mining company. This tailing is to store byproduct of mining. This is the first picture, yeah. After the separation, you have like you make a separation. The mining company we coming to throw all of this chemical in this area, and this area it is like is near from the places from who these people living already. And this is we make an issue because when you see in first picture we have a lot of crack, and this is and this water we going to beside the stream for the people who are living. And after that we going to Klip River, and the Ver River, this is the main river in South Africa. This is what I get interesting to make the topic to I focus for the issue for this place.
Yeah, it's obviously quite a massive issue. So I mean, it's an issue where we're looking at scarcity of water, which is a big issue, I think, particularly on the African continent, and I think in the next few years. So you're looking at scarcity, you're looking how it's impacting people, communities, life around the area, animals, environment. It's quite a multi-layered issue. So you researched it before you got there. Was this something that that you read about or knew about even before learning about the grant? Was this something you always wanted to pursue and the grant made it possible?
Yeah, I read about the water in Africa because I'm interested to make a project also in Egypt about the same issue, not the same issue for mining, but we have also issue in water in Egypt. I read about what happened in Africa and the water because I'm interested in this topic because the water is like the main for everything. But I didn't read before about the area or anything. Just I read about the scientific research for the analysis for water and from where the water for every country we coming, and this is like I made also the map, and every time I working with the Google Earth to check the spot from the place. Before I arrive this area, I check where is the tailing dam for this area, so I know where is the pollution coming from where and we going where.
Do you feel like you're done with this topic? I feel like you've opened a can of worms where now you've started this and now you have to continue doing this work one way or another.
No, still this project I need to back again. I prepare, but not this year because I tried from the COVID. I will apply for the fund or I searching for any organization in South Africa. I will like send email to them to I complete this work because this work still is not finished. I need to spend more time with the community and I check what is the disease because this time for the COVID is very difficult because all of this area is like we have a lot of issue also for COVID. I'm scared also to I get COVID and this time, but still this work I need to back again and complete that for this is one of community I need like to spend more time and I go with other community and I go this river and I make a research again because I have a connection with the people in the university and the company and I send all of the time email to them to I get update because I must to have update every time what happened if you get solution or not because the solution is very difficult because if you need to clean anyone you clean the water we need some technology it is very very expensive and when you see in the last picture this is already a lot of uranium and chrome and chemical in this water you cannot clean by we need like expensive technology to make that this every time I get update for this organization or the company to I keep update for my
so you want to go back to South Africa, Fatma, and it sounds like you want to apply for another grant to allow you to go there, which is why I want us to talk about grants because when I was starting with photography there were some grant opportunities but there weren't as many as there are now. So I feel like for many photographers today, although there's more people taking pictures, I feel there's so many more opportunities today that allow people to tell stories. And I feel like there's been a shift in even the nature of the grants, that a lot of them are in line with Daniele's grant, for example, that they want to honor people's personal way of telling stories and the stories they're passionate about. So tell me a little bit about this grant. Obviously, it took you to a country in Africa, a country of interest, but it allowed you to tell stories that are interesting to you and what you want to tell as a storyteller and photographer. Tell me, like in terms of the grant as well, what do you think has it changed you as a photographer? Has it taught you something about photography? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the grant we changed my vision. First time I didn't need to lift my job for chemical engineer, but now I take every time the mission and the challenge to I can make something for the world because I need like to make a fingerprint for my picture. I need my voice to be in the picture to the people we can know this is like we have issue. I need to like have a solution or make something for photography. And as a chemical engineer before, but now I'm photography and my vision to complete now for photography. I didn't back again for chemical. I will focus for the photography in Egypt as a documentary to tell the story for the people who have issue, environment, social issue in Egypt.
Right. So you've now done a total shift in career. You're now going to focus entirely on photography, and you've stopped being an engineer. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello? Yeah, the connection is very bad.
Hello?
Sorry. Hello, you hearing me, Laura?
Can
Hello?
you hear me?
Yeah. I have a problem in the
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm. I don't know if it's me or whose connection it is. It's been a nightmare since yesterday. I apologize. Now you've decided to by practice, but you're going to continue doing stories inspired by engineering somehow. But I want to talk about the photo workshop because I think this is a particularly unique aspect of this. Hello?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry, Fatma. So I was just saying, can you tell us a little bit about the collaboration with the Market Photo Workshop? I think it's a particularly unique aspect of this grant that you have access to the facilities, the staff, you get mentorship, and you're there for 1 year. So what was that like? Hello? Hello? Disaster.
Laura, I think it's Fatma
Hi.
that are having problems.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah.
me. You guys can hear me and see me?
Now she reconnected.
Okay, good.
But Laura, I think we start to have a problem with timing. Yes,
Oh, okay.
so maybe if we move to Aida in order.
Back.
Sure, Aida, are you comfortable to take over for the minute? Or it looks like Fatma's back. I also don't want to take time away from Aida and what she's going to talk about. Hi.
I can start.
Okay.
Okay, please go ahead, Aida.
Okay. Sorry, guys. In my background, I have some music playing outside on the streets, so that'll be my soundtrack while I'm doing this presentation. I just wanted to say hello to everybody. Marhaba, Fatma, and Giordano. It's nice to see you again, and everybody else who I've never met personally, but now I get to put the faces to the names. So the key thing for me that I really wanted to discuss is really the importance of education in the continent. I think in the, all these years that I've worked in Ethiopia and different parts of the continent, the one thing that I have realized is that in order to get our photographers into the market, having engagements that sort of develop skills is quite important. And I think having a place like Market Photo is a very relevant space because, as we know, a lot of the top photographers have come from that space. But we need these kind of institutions throughout the continent. So having the Tamani grant, I think, is quite important. And I believe even with Giordano and also Luca Rocco, we often discuss, how do we provide opportunities that actually have an impact and have a long-term impact. So for example, in the Addis Photo Fest, it's not just an exhibition that we organize. We also have portfolio reviews where we review photographers from different parts of Africa and also photographers within Ethiopia. And through that engagement, what we have seen is that getting these inputs, building networks, establishing mentorship is really quite important. And I know that for Fatma, this is just the beginning. This is sort of from this point is how do you continue developing these relationships and also building your network of connecting with photographers, not only abroad, but also in the continent. And, the interesting thing for me is that when we were doing the selection for the Addis Photo Fest that was supposed to take place, our sixth edition in 2020, which, we had to postpone, I had selected Fatma's work and I wanted to see her in person and put her in the portfolio review because often, we need to encourage more female photographers, I believe, not just in Africa, but globally. So that's how I came across her work. And then when I found out that she was the recipient of the grant, I felt like this was, a good opportunity for her. And, through the Addis Photo Fest, what we have seen is that for photographers in the continent, what's missing is just small opportunities, and even when we look at our infrastructure, especially for the higher institution, and we're talking about photojournalism or we're talking about communication, there's really limited opportunities to grow and to connect and to create work that goes beyond our borders. So my main vision and also sort of the pillar of why I started the Addis Photo Fest was really, first and foremost, I started by teaching photographers photojournalism, but then I realized it wasn't just about teaching photographers. We also need to teach society of the application of photography and the spectrum of photography. And through that also to really, share these images from around the world of what places look like through these images. So over the course of the years, it's been quite important for me to have these kind of partnerships and also to encourage young talent to engage, with all these opportunities that are available. And I think having these kind of conversations as well, I think this will encourage other photographers to understand that there is opportunities. And in all honesty, the challenges of photographers in Africa and the challenges of photography in Europe and anywhere else, we share similar challenges in different spaces and so forth. But I'm a believer that if you put your mind into it, it is possible to overcome whatever it is that, to get your work to the next step. So even for Fatima, just to let her know that, when I say this is the beginning, it really is the beginning. But at the same time, it's also about having them understand that you have to put in a lot of work to reach to a specific point. And, the industry that we're in, it's really, it's not so kind. At times it could be discouraging. There's a lot of different challenges that come to it. But at the end of the day, I think being persistent and having perseverance and also understanding that within the continent, there's a network of us that, it's not just me doing a festival. It's not just me educating. There's a lot of different institutions throughout the continent that are offering sort of support for our emerging talents. So, but yeah, this is my point of view for now. Was that short enough, or is that?
I think that was perfect. It looked like you were just saying that off the top of your head. You weren't even reading it off of paper. It was amazing. Very succinct.
No, I do a lot of these, so Giordano knows. So
well done. Well done. Well, actually, I want to pick up on a few of the points that Aida just talked about and discuss them with Fatma. So one thing is photography on the continent, on Africa, because the Tamania grant takes a focus on Africa in terms of people doing work on Africa and shining a light on the continent. But I think also in terms of opportunity and future. So let's talk a little bit about that in terms of again, the grant itself, Fatma, and how it facilitated the kind of photography that you're doing and the direction that you hope to take. But I also want to particularly talk about grants. And I think grants offer us an opportunity to continue work, but I feel like oftentimes grants and contests are something that people apply for. And if they don't get it, they're like, I'm never going to apply for this again. My work is not good enough. But I think there's a lot to learn from just applying for things and putting your work in front of a panel and introducing people to your work and familiarizing them with it. So just let's talk a lot. There isn't a specific question here, Fatma. It's just part of a conversation about the grant itself and what it offers in terms of education in Africa. Fatma, are you there? I think we lost Fatma again. I wonder, Sarah, would you like to step in at this point and talk? I'm sorry to put you under the spotlight all of a sudden.
No. Don't worry, Lara. No. It's about connection and technology. No, I mean, I'm kind of, as Giordano was saying, obviously I work in the fashion industry, and photography for me, it's fundamental. But I think the fundamental message that Aida was saying about, the fact of nurturing and giving, spotlight and support to these creators is really like essential, because obviously through a fund like Daniele Tamagni Fund, I think it's really like the perfect and important message, of heritage of someone that it's not anymore with us, but also to the fact that we believe in the new generation, and the new generation has really do not have a collocation. It doesn't have a race. It doesn't have boundaries. So I think it's interesting to see and see how the world, like for example of Fatma, can give being highlighted in a grant so important, and have the chance, to have the opportunities, to talk with people from the industry, but at the same time also to express herself in a country where she never went to, and then in a way she was stuck, but at the same time through her vision and through what she sees as a woman across a camera, sees also what's happening in a country which is not her home country, but at the same time, photographer has the vision and the creativeness of pulling out, the best and worst also of some countries. And I think also she touched a very, very important issue, which is responsibility and sustainability about the climate changes and what's happening, where people are not talking about. And this is not just through sorry, I kind of like jump from one thing to another, but just to make you understand, because I mean we're kind of bombarded, I just imagine myself, but also yourself, we're all in Zoom calls every day. Then you finish your day, maybe you put on TV and it's news and it's just words. And sometimes it's just the power of an image that makes you understand what's really happening without really putting so much, information in it. But it's just, the pictures that Fatma was showing about, those, I call them lakes, which is not lakes, but those, patches of water, which they have everything except, a natural color or anything. So, and as she was saying, since she comes also from a different world, which in a way it isn't, because she comes from, she says that she know about chemistry and everything. But I think it's the beauty of how being a photographer, it's about, if you have really a strong vision and message you want to give, you can be a dentist, whoever you are, but it's, your eyes and your camera that sees something that maybe other people don't see. So I think this is really the power of image. And in a way, myself, I grew up in a magazine where the power of images has been always very strong, and it touched obviously fashion, but not just fashion, but also social changes. So I think that I mean, I'm very grateful to be here and also see, you know, and get to know people, which probably I would never get the opportunity to do, because apart from not managing to travel, it's also a fact of, you know, exchanging vision and know-how.
Thank you, Sarah. So I think actually
Back.
I've just been alerted. Hi, Fatma. Nice to have
Sorry.
you back. It's okay. This is like the age of Zoom, but it does add an element of stress. Like this is one of the most stressful Zooms for me because I'm constantly worried that I'm going to lose the connection. So I'm sorry if I seem a bit like not here. But anyhow, one of the things that I really want to highlight that I think is very interesting about this particular grant is the collaboration with the Market Photo Workshops, because it's not just about empowering photographers from there, photographers who want to tell stories here, but I think it also is going to address the issue of representation. You know, I think often on this continent, people come from elsewhere to portray us, but I do believe that the next 10 years are going to be a moment for Africa and people telling stories about here from here as well. So I think this is a collaboration that I think is very interesting and I think timely as well. So I think what I'd like to do now, because I want to have Q&A at the end, I'd love to turn it now to, I believe, Giordano or Hona, who's going to announce the second edition. And then we're going to have a Q&A afterwards.
I would like to give some highlights of the new edition. We have decided to go on with the second edition after having frozen, as we had planned for last year, because we had a lot of encouragements by potential students and candidates who asked many times to people at Market Photo Workshops if this grant could be repeated and having a second shot. So through these encouragements, we have taken the decision to go on, and we hope, of course, we wish that while this year the selection process is a selection process which doesn't require traveling, next year when the seminar will go on in Johannesburg, we hope that the pandemic situation will be really controlled, as everybody hopes, by the vaccination. So we go on. We go on. The architecture of the grants is similar to the first edition, but with some new, some more elements, some features. Just looking to the timing, we will launch the grant at the end of May, and the selection of the recipient will be decided in September. At this point, the jury will be enlarged. Last year, we have seven people, 7 jury members. We want now to have a broader view, more countries represented by the jury. So we are planning to have 12 expertise represented by the new jury. The other important point, we will give a lot of importance to 2 criteria in selecting the nominees and at the end the recipient of the grant. The first criteria is to choose the person according to a story which is based on the values that during this presentation we are stressing. So on one side, the values which were related to the story of the school, David Goldblatt, and also Daniele through his photography, the dignity, the identity, the respect, the desire to contribute to social changes. And Fatma, from this point of view, through her work, there was a tram in Alexandria, and the project on environment is really matching very well this criteria. So we would like to have our people who participate with the same approach. On the same time, it will be, again, very important to have somebody in Johannesburg who with a strong determination, a strong resilience, to focus to learning, the willingness to share with our students his experience, and to be very proactive in the school activity. So the personality side of a person will be taken into account, because we want that this person is not only, let's say, a passive participant, but is a very active participant in the school activity. Another point, which is in this case new, of a new edition, is the partnership with Addis Photo Festival. So with Aida has been very, very collaborative, and we would like to present the recipient, if everything goes well, at in Addis Abeba, when the festival in December should be organized. And so the recipient will have a possibility in that environment to meet our people, curators, and so on. And another important point is that we have understood how it's important to keep this personal, on my side, but also with the school, flow of communication, relationship with the recipient. So we would like to follow the person in Joburg from time to time, to keep in touch, to exchange point of view, to encourage, to face issues when they arise in due time. And so this kind of constant participation also from the side of the sponsor of the foundation of Daniele Tamagni. Just, of course, the award will be again open to everybody, no nationalities limitation. So Africans, but also non-Africans can become the recipient. A final point I would like to make is the strong relationship we had with the school. Because I think this is important, that the recipient understand that there is the same direction in trying to achieve the targets, the aim we have in mind. So with the school, we have worked very well. Every time there were issues in a short time, they were faced by people in the school. So it is for me, sometimes, of course, you need to thank, and I really am happy, very happy to thank the team, Kona. Of course, there was Legheto Makola, the director of the school, who's now has left the school for another important job. He's not here, but he followed Fatma during the activity and encouraged also the grant activities. There are other people I would like to thank, and Marco Longari. Marco Longari is the director, the chief photographer for Africa of Associated France Press. He works, he helps the school, and he did a very great job also in assisting Fatma during this her projects. And Luca Rocco, who most of you knows, who is behind the screen, but helped a lot in helping to go in the good direction in the choices we would like to make. Of course, I just now I think that Kona could add something about the second edition, and of course, if she wants to add something about the second edition, please.
Thank you, Giordano. We are looking forward to applications from across the world. We hope that the experience of the next recipient will be as amazing, maybe a little bit less dramatic than Fatma's experience was in terms of COVID. But it's something that we're definitely looking forward to. And we have had a number of inquiries already. There's definitely some excitement.
That's really great to hear. So thank you to everybody. I mean, I'd like to open it up for people to ask questions. It doesn't look like we have any, but actually I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. I'm interested to know from both Giordano and from you, Kona, in terms of the vision for the grant. Are you open to people who have more of a photojournalistic approach, or are you also open for people who have a fine art approach, portraiture, landscapes? I mean, is this open for everybody?
Should I go, Giordano?
The idea is maybe to privilege a photojournalistic approach. And in fact, we are going more in this direction because we believe this is more consistent to the spirit, the aim also of the school. Of course, what I can add, but I don't now make an official statement. If I find somebody who is the future great artistics of fine art, and we discover a very creative person, really, we could be embarrassed in maybe not choosing him, but I believe that we as a foundation could help him in another way.
Hona, do you have something to contribute to that?
I think I can just add that what the Market Photo Workshop is known for is privileging photography of concern. So with the photojournalism program, students are expected to go into communities all around Johannesburg and to research issues. So and that seems to align quite well with the Daniela Tamangi's foundation's concerns.
Sure, that sounds great. But you are open to people who are sort of presenting a progressive vision of photojournalism. So something, of course, that with issues of concern, but maybe visually, it's more aligned, it's more open and more experimental.
Yes, we do encourage that. We actually encourage experimental photography.
And I think that's great to hear for people who are attending, that you're open to something that's not just traditional photojournalism, but something that's progressive as well. I think we have an important question in the chat room from Berkat, who was asking about what sort of costs does the grant actually cover, Giordano? Can you just give us an idea of that?
The last year experience, we covered, of course, the fee of the school, and we gave also what we call a salary stipend, which would allow the person to pay all residential costs, so flat, rent, and living expenses. Also, of course, we paid traveling from home country to Joburg, and the insurance related to health insurance, and all the costs related to this kind of protection in case of accident of issues, similar issues. So basically, we decided the budget together with the school, trying to understand cost of living in Joburg, and to try to give a fair reimbursement who could help the person to pay all what was necessary to live in Joburg in a reasonable way. Of course, cost of living there is lower than in some European countries, but through this budget, but should be really Fatma to say if she survived with the help we gave it to her, or she had to live only with bread and butter.
Fatma, is there anything you want to say about this bit in terms of the kind of support that you received from the grant? Did you, I mean, how was that like for you? I'll preempt that by saying that, like for me, for example, I've applied for so many grants and I've only won one or two, and they really helped me financially to be able to lift that financial burden off myself and think more creatively about the project. So can you talk a little bit about that for yourself? And
this grant is very special for me because it's not about the money only, the connection with the people, and like the Guardiano. All of time I have a connection with Guardiano and Market Food Workshop. Anyone I send message, you help me for if you have a connect with people, or if I need like some help for something, you tell me, yeah, go this side. I feeling like a family, not we going to, I get like a grant. This is like a family. And I see, I know it's a very hard time this year for the COVID. I didn't like to go outside a lot in Johannesburg, or I didn't get the internship for photojournalism, but everyone we helped me to I produce my work. And also Marco Longari is my instructor in my documentary. I work with him all of the time. He helped me to make a sequence, and I sometime I went with them outside to take a picture for photojournalism. I think it's not like a school, this is like a family, and we have a lot of things to do. I know this time for COVID I didn't go to school a lot, but anyone we apply for this grant, we will get a lot of advance, because I also we have a dark room in this school. You can to go and we develop your work, and we can meet a lot of the another graduated from this school and the artists, and we make a cooperation with them. But this time, because the COVID, I didn't have a connection. I just a chat. This is difficult time for me, but this is I know this is, if anyone to apply for the next year, will be good choice, because this is a school and the foundation is family, not we give you money and okay, take you. I didn't caring about nothing after that.
Well, I think in line with what Fatma just said, Khona, I'd like to get to you. If you could tell us a little bit about the Market Photo Workshop, what it's like to be there, what kind of stories the students typically develop, and tell us a little bit about the alumni. This is actually a question from Luca.
So as the Market Photo Workshop, our interest is in obviously developing photography, but particularly for people who would not ordinarily have access to photography training because it can be quite expensive. We think of ourselves as a home and a resource for photographers. So besides how we encourage the education and ensure that our students are well taken care of through our programming, we also offer services to photographers within Johannesburg. So what that means is that, as Fatma said, we try and retain a network of alumni. From time to time, we get our alumni to come in and speak to current students. I'm hoping that one of these days we'll get Fatma to also speak to current students. And in terms of the types, the alumni who are well known, who've done well, who come from the Market Photo Workshop. Just this morning, I was speaking to Gulshan Khan, who is the Canon ambassador for South Africa. She said this was confirmed towards the end of last year. Other alumni include Zanele Mholi, whose work has been very important in making LGBTQI people, particularly from poor Black backgrounds in South Africa, known across the world. So I think we think of ourselves as more than just a school, but a community of photography for photography.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And the next question, I think, is one that you can answer, but I think also Aida can tackle. It's what place does African photography occupy in the world in terms of competitiveness and representation? Do you want to speak about that, Hona, and then Aida can comment?
I think our view on that as the Market Photo Workshop is that we want our stories as an African stories to be told by Africans from an African point of view. We encourage our students to tell stories based on their true realities, not what they think whoever pays, particularly from the West, expects them to tell. So I think what is important is that we tell stories for ourselves, that we stop telling stories for what we perceive to be a gaze of the West.
Aida, how would you answer this question?
Well, I mean, photography has been in Africa for quite a long time. So it's not like we just started working like a few years ago. You know, we've been at it for quite some time, but it's a question of access. It's a question of opportunities. And it's really a question of, is the world ready to also hear our side of the story? And me, having started out as a photojournalist, I really take to heart, you know, the question of representation, because I think maybe in the past 10 years or so that we started seeing this influx of photographers from Africa entering into the international market. But within that, me, myself as an educator, I've seen a lot of new talent that we have pushed forward and new talent that's coming up. And I think this has to be attached to the access to technology, the access to cameras. You know, back in the day, we were talking about working on analog, which was almost impossible for many of the regions. But since we're in a digital world and, you know, having access to networks, people are coming across finding photographers in these different regions. But, you know, within this, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think from my end, it's not just the question of photographers, but for example, we need more diverse people as editors, as chief editors to all these different media organizations, because that also shifts the perception of the continent. And where we are now is that, yes, you know, we want to tell our stories. We want to have our platforms as well to share with the world. But we're still stuck also in this cliche of people thinking that Africa is one thing, or, you know, whatever the cliche is also has been represented in the international media. And this is why the educational component is quite important. Me personally, I'm not teaching photographers to be the best photographers in Africa. I'm teaching photographers to be the best photographers in the world, because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that we have to be able to be competitive globally. So, but let's not forget, you know, we have our own aesthetics, we have our own perceptions of how we see our own selves and how we want to represent that, not only to the international community, but also to our own community. And that is sort of the value. And right now, if you look at the growing markets for photography, you know, the biggest market that's growing is Africa and Asia. This is what collectors are really seeking after. So this shows you that there's a specific value within that. And that's only changing because the visibility, you know, through these different platforms has given us an opportunity to sort of have access to people that normally would not have access unless you come into the continent. So in that sense, I think the future for the continent is quite bright, and it's not a matter of, you know, in the next 10 years, I think we've been there already. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been doing this work for quite some time, but now this is why it's important to have connections with the global community, but also to understand that we want to develop our photographers to enter into this market because it is a viable market. You know, there's an industry behind it, but you know, but the key thing also is just how do we engage our own photographers to participate in this? Because at the end of the day, we are I mean, regardless of what form of photography we choose to address, you know, at the end of the day, we're communicating something very specific, and that communication has a great value specifically for the future generation. And this is what I try to push for photojournalism, even though most people know me as a fine art photographer. The basis of photography for me is photojournalism, because at the end, we're also documenting a moment in time and a moment in history for the future generation. And I know a lot of photographers in Africa, you know, fantasize of being fine art photographers, but they don't understand, you know, documenting the here and now, being a witness to the here and now is just as relevant as creating a new reality within your images. So for that, it's really, there's a lot of resources online to look up on to see where photographers from Africa have reached. And there's also several festivals across the continent. So there's us in Addis Ababa, there's the Lagos Photo Fest in Lagos. There's also Bamako Biennale in Mali, which is, you know, the birthing place for many of us. That's where most of us have entered into the international market through that festival. So there's different events that take place, but you know, there's a lot of ways to find out who is out there. And even, for example, just for the Addis Photo Fest website, you can find all this information. We have an archive of all the different photographers that we have featured to give you a sense of the progression of how photography has grown, and also how the visual aesthetics is also shifting within that.
Thank you, Aida. Yeah, I think you've touched on many important points. And I think you've even touched on what we have as the next question about, you know, that even though African photography is progressing and moving forward, there is still a lack in terms of space as galleries and exhibitions. But I do feel like that is changing with Addis Photo Fest and a lot of the different platforms that you've mentioned, that things are changing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the key thing is that this is, when I look at the world of photography, there has to be a buy-in by all stakeholders in our society or in our cities or in our country, which means that the government needs to be on board, the educational institutions need to be on board, the public needs to be on board, you know, the consumers need to be on board. So we have a lot of steps that we have to go through before we get to this ideal position, because at the end of the day, you know, I think that it's not just, you know, waiting for support from outside. You know, for example, for me, I organized the Addis Photo Fest not because I come from money or, you know, any kind of power or what have you. It's just because I wanted to show other photographers in Africa that it is possible, if you put your mind into it, that you can organize something for your own community. And this sort of, you know, created a whole ecosystem, for example, in Addis Ababa, because all of a sudden young photographers decided, okay, it is valid to have a photo exhibition. You know, it's not just about, you know, paintings and sculptures. So through that, all of a sudden, we started seeing different hotels offering their spaces for young photographers to exhibit their work and to be able to sell it. So it's you know, there are different strategies within that. And I do believe that, I think one of the greatest thing for Africa is that we're very rich in all kinds of culture. We're very innovative. We've overcome many things. And I can say about 2020, I think we've overcome many things. But through that, it's like we have to build the industry around it. So we can't talk about why we don't have galleries, why we don't have spaces and so forth. We first have to also focus on the inception of this process, which is the educational part of it. Because, you know, anybody can open a gallery, but you have to understand there are many steps to get to that point. And this is why, even for me, I'm very specific in how I engage the government, is to make them understand that there's really, you know, the power of the image, as cliche as it might sound, the power of an image is quite strong. So what I often say is that, you know, it's not a politician that goes and promotes our country. It's actually the creative sector that's actually promoting each country, especially in Africa. So I know as the creative sector in the continent, we have become quite strong in that sense, because you've seen it, how it's entered in the market. But the next step also is that there needs to be an accountability from the ground. And this is not saying that there's no money in Africa. There's a lot of money in Africa. But why don't we have, you know, a grant or an award that's like locally aggregated through the African businesses, because they don't see the value of it yet. And that should be also the next work that needs to be done, that we have to be able to raise funds internally and get that investment, not only from the private sector, but also from the public sector, to invest in these kind of activities.
Yeah, and I think just kind of going forward with, you know, empowering people through education and focusing on that in order to move everything forward with photography on the continent. I just want to we have a few minutes left, so I'd like to go to each one of you just to kind of give me some feedback through personal experience, or Giordano, through your vision for the grant. What tips would you give for people who are here who want to apply for this grant in terms of how to write their proposal, how to edit? What do you think is like the one line, most critical thing that you think is important that people should keep in mind?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, but I need to leave because I thought it was an hour and I have another call in 10 minutes. So sorry to drop you off. But
it is actually an hour, Sarah. Do you have any one sentence tip that you want to give to people in terms of applying? What do you think is the most important thing?
I think, I mean, this is a grant that obviously, as Giordano was saying, it's about photo reportage. But as I said, the beauty of being a photographer, having a personal vision, I think that it can be open to everyone, because photography has really the power to see image in a very different way with what we really see daily ourselves. So I'm really thinking that it's something that it's an opportunity even for those people that don't have a voice or don't really have, you know, the opportunity to approach this kind of, you know, possibility. So I always think that in a way contests are open to everyone. If someone is curious and passionate and really believes in what they're doing, I mean, they could really apply, not to every contest everywhere, but when it's about photography, I mean, it's about really the vision you want to give. So this is really my suggestion, and always to be kind of, you know, bold, and don't be afraid, you know, to express yourself.
I think that's great, Sarah, because I think sometimes people might want to be a bit conservative. So your tip is to show your personal vision and be bold with your selection and what you're proposing. So that's great. And I'm sorry we've run over time. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry myself. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Was all everyone nice meeting you. Ciao Giordano. Bye.
Ciao, 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 Sarah. Grazie.
Pleasure,
Fatma, congratulations. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you. Sorry about this.
Okay.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Giordano, let's go to you. What do you want to add on to what Sarah just said?
What I expect is that the projects from some mission project, the person believes strongly in his project, in his message. So it's something that is not done just to participate to a competition, but that through his story, her story, he wants to tell something which is a strong belief for him. He wants to give this message to other people, to make a larger audience for his message, and that it can build up through the grant a progression of this message, to find a way to strengthen this message, maybe thanks to the opportunity of the grant.
So your message, Giordano, is believe in what you're writing. Don't just do it for the grant, but actually believe in what you're proposing and be passionate about it, which is also great. Aida, what would be your tip for people applying?
I mean, the key thing is, you know, you have to know what your truth is. I see a lot of competitions where photographers are submitting for whatever prestige or what have you. But the key thing is that I think for those of us on the other side of the table where we have to like review works or look at proposals and so forth, you can always tell the sincerity of what it is that person is trying to propose. So it's not about fantasizing of proposing a project that, you know, takes you to some other place. You know, there's so many stories just in your neighborhood. You know, there's so many stories just within even yourself. And that's the key thing that I've understood is that, you know, when we talk about photography is an art form. And that's an art form that also has an audience where they can see your truth within it, you know. And the other key thing is that in the submission processes, you know, I always say, and this is why I think for emerging talents, the importance of building portfolios, because when you have a competition that comes up, if you have a portfolio, which is a collection of images that tell one story, as you continue to build that, if there's an opportunity that comes, it's just a package that you're able to send out. So, so that's, you know, the key point. And then the final thing is that don't give up, you know, as I stated much earlier, rejection is our best friend in photography. As you know, Laura, I mean, you know, it's the reality that we face. And this is really an art form that does not take too well to ego. So if you have a big ego and you feel offended if you aren't accepted, or you're offended because your work was critiqued in a specific way, you really would not get far. And it's not, you know, I tell my students that, you know, if you want to be rich and famous, don't be a photographer, find another field. You know, this requires a heavy dedication and heavy investment. And it's not something where, oh, I'm going to take photos because I'm going to apply for this grant. No, you need to be taking photos every day. You need to be building a collection every month, you know, and this shows in your work. So, so for me, I'm a technical person in certain ways when I edit, and obviously we can tell who you are through the images that you present. And a lot of the times, you know, that is reflected in the work. But my encouragement to any of the photographers, especially in the continent, is you will not know until you apply. And then if you've applied once, keep applying. This is not an application where you have to pay to apply for it, because there's a lot of competitions where you have to pay, which I don't agree with, to submit work. So you have to keep applying and to see, because what ends up happening by applying is that your name will pop up in there. It would be inside the system. So this is quite relevant. A lot of times people don't realize how important that is, because other people, so for example, if somebody's jurying it, they see your name, you might not be selected, but there might be somebody on the jury that likes your work and they could contact you for a specific thing. So you don't know where the opportunities lead. But the key thing is that, you know, it requires being consistent and having the discipline to follow through as well. Thank you.
Well, I think that's great. So believe in your own voice, show us who you are, be passionate about what you're proposing. And one of the key things, Ida, you said is don't give up. So if you applied last year and you didn't get it, apply again this year if you still think that your work is suited within the framework of this grant. Hona, I'd love to come to you. And then finally, I'd love to end with Fatma to tell us what she thinks are things for people to keep in mind while applying. Hona, what do you think tips there are that you'd love to share?
I think for me, it's evidence that you're curious about the world, you're curious about people around you, and that you have a hunger to learn. So there must be some sort of engagement with the world around you.
Okay, that's perfect. So be engaged with the world around you. Show us what the world around you looks like, basically, in your proposal. Fatma, I'd like to get with you like a bit technical. Tell us about the writing of your proposal, like not too long, but what do you think made your proposal stand out? Of course, the imagery is one thing, but the writing aspect, did you write from a personal voice, a first-person voice, or was it general?
Yeah, I'm anyone, you must apply in the proposal. You must you believe yourself and write on voice, not to write something to can apply. And when you believe yourself, you can get accepted. First time I apply a lot and I get rejected for many scholarship before, because I write before like the deadline for 1 week and I apply and just this. But when I believe that I need something to do, I write for 2 months for this grant, and I put my own vision and what I feeling in this proposal. And I feeling I'm very comfortable. And sometimes we can someone help you for writing, because I know that the language is this might not own language or something, but you can someone help you. But you must write what you feeling in this time, and you must your work about your vision, not you searching for the grant and you make a story about this grant only. You must have your vision when you can apply to can get accepted, not for running for the financial or to get money or the exhibition or something. I think this is the big problem now, because a lot of now I see a lot of grant and I found, but the people we're running for to get money, and we didn't see this project is finished, or you have a own voice or not. I think this is the problem. You have what you need exactly, and this time is the project okay, is preparing for fund or not.
Well, I think everything you've said highlights the fact that you need to show who you are in the proposal by your images and what you've written. But one key thing you've said, Fatma, is don't make this a last minute thing. Like, don't apply an hour before the deadlines. Take your time, think about it, look at the pictures, come back to it, change the editing. So basically take time preparing. So I'd love to end with some last comments. Giordano, Hona, and Aida, if you want to add anything, please do. Last comments that you want to leave us with before we end the panel. And if there's any last questions, please go ahead, but I don't think we have time. You're on mute, Giordano.
My last comment is thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to Fatma. Thank you to Aida. Thank you to Kona. Thank you to Moza, who follow us in this. And if some potential candidate is following us, we have given to them many highlights to be successful in competing for the second edition of the grant. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Giordano. Hona, any last words?
I think on my side, it would just be to ask people to keep to our social media. We'll be sharing more details as we go. And I think one more thing, we forgot to mention that Fatma is also the inaugural recipient of the Just Photo Fellowship. But other than that, thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Hona. Aida, any last words?
I think I've said what I have to say, but no, I just want to wish Fatma all the best of luck. You know, stick with it, and you have a lot of work ahead. Yeah. So, you know, I look forward to seeing the progression of your career and see where you take it from here on.
Yeah, I have a lot.
Yeah, and it's nice to see all of you guys to have this conversation. But thank you for this time as well.
Thank you, Aida. Fatma, any last words from you?
No, thank you. I am very happy for to meet everyone. I already I feeling like a family, and I will keep update with all us about my succeed in my in photography, and I hope the world open the arm for me to I make something in photography.
Well, that's great, Fatma. Thank you so much for everybody for being here, for everybody that tuned in. If you have any questions, ask Fatma everything. She knows the answers as the first winner. I'm just kidding. But yes, thank you everybody for tuning in. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.